Welcome to Now. The election calendar begins in less than a month, but already the 2008 campaign is delivering a few surprises. One of those is the highly unusual, largely internet-based presidential campaign of Republican Congressman Ron Paul of Texas. He is not your ordinary candidate, and neither are his supporters, from anti-war progressives to anti-tax libertarians, civil liberties types, and even some white supremacists. How did all this political gumbo end up in the same pot? We dove into RonPaul Nation, the internet movement that's gone viral by tapping into the discontent and anger of voters. But can that unfettered rage in the virtual world translate into anything that approaches practical policies in the real world? Senior correspondent Maria Hinojosa and producer Carla Murphy have our report.
On a chilly Saturday afternoon, several thousand people have come to Philadelphia to see Ron Paul, the Republican congressman from Texas who's running for president. One of those people is Eli Hughes. He's never been to a political rally before, but that changed one day when he was surfing on the internet.
I think I was on YouTube looking for some kind of guitar video or something.
He stumbled across a video like this one about Ron Paul.
We have allowed our nation to be overtaxed and overregulated and overrun by bureaucrats.
Just hearing the man speak sold me. It wasn't a highly charismatic, kind of speech like a lot of the other candidates gave out. He was just speaking truth, and I was impressed by that.
Ron Paul has managed to not just impress people, but change them from apathetic observers to active supporters. And he hasn't done it with hugs and handshakes or the help of the mainstream media. The Ron Paul movement was born and bred on the power of the internet.
It has been said that there were 2 or 3 dozen spammers out there running the campaign, and it looks like there's a lot more.
Ron Paul's anti-war, anti-tax, anti-big government, libertarian message has whipped up some passionate supporters. Many had never been active in politics before.
He's the man!
By taking the internet by storm, they've raised millions of dollars and transformed his campaign from cash-strapped to cash magnet. And that flood of money has helped turn Ron Paul into a wild card in the upcoming primaries.
Hey, Ronnie!
Ron Paul's unexpected rise has stunned the political establishment. But is the country ready for Ron Paul Nation? At this bar in Chicago, a Ron Paul meetup group is learning how to collect petitions. Meetups are gatherings of people with similar interests, from poodles to politics. They find each other online and then meet up. Brian Costin is the meetup organizer.
He is willing to stand up for the Constitution, even when it's unpopular.
Ron Paul's strict interpretation of the Constitution to protect against government abuse has earned him his nickname, Dr. No. He voted no against the Iraq War, no against a federal ban on same-sex marriage, no against sending money to Hurricane Katrina victims, and no against the Patriot Act. In the age of flip-flopping politicians, Brian Costin was drawn to Paul's unwavering ideology.
There's a lot of people that don't agree with every one of his issues, but are more passionate about Ron Paul than they have been about any other candidate that they've ever had. And I think that comes from his principled consistency.
Welcome to Texas Congressman and Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul. Congressman, great to have you here. Good morning.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We caught up with Ron Paul on the campaign trail at this local radio station in Charleston, South Carolina, and spoke with the 10-term congressman and former obstetrician in one of their studios.
Congressman, people like to say that you are Dr. No. You are the contrarian. You say no to many things. So what does that look like with you as a president?
Everything you say no to, you say yes to something else. If I say no to paper money, I say yes to sound money. If I say no to foreign intervention and preemptive war, I say yes to peace and commerce. I'm saying no to something that people are very disgusted with, and it's runaway big government.
In the early stages of his campaign, Ron Paul was having a difficult time getting his message out. He had no name recognition and no money to pay for ads. And what little attention he was getting from mainstream media journalists wasn't helping much.
What's success for you in this campaign?
What's success? Well, to win is one is the goal.
That's not going to happen.
But even though mainstream media wasn't taking him seriously, Ron Paul was converting more and more believers to his cause.
Most of the campaigns have distributed tasks, and the Ron Paul campaign has distributed power. And that's a far more intoxicating and exciting kind of distribution to be a part of.
Zephyr Teachout was Howard Dean's online organizer and is now a visiting professor at Duke University. She says the easiest way to distribute power is on the internet, but most campaigns aren't using the web in that way.
Almost all the candidates this cycle have tended strongly towards the managerial use of the internet, the Coca-Cola use. Let's make the best site we can. I call them Stepford sites. And you come to those as a citizen and you feel like this is very nicely done and I don't belong here. There's no role for me as a thinking, creative person.
Ron Paul's website was sending a different message.
It was very bare bones. There wasn't any social networking sites on it. It was just a very, very basic page.
Unlike the big-name contenders backed with huge war chests and an army of political strategists, Ron Paul didn't have much to work with. So his supporters took it upon themselves to plaster Paul's message all over the internet. The no rules and no authorities nature of the internet has long made it a home for libertarian ideas. So it's no surprise that a lot of Ron Paul supporters were already wired up and web savvy.
It's time to take these videos to the next level.
They posted incessantly on blogs, created hundreds and hundreds of Ron Paul videos on YouTube, and voted relentlessly on internet polls. Ron Paul has over 70,000 people signed up for Ron Paul meetup groups all over the country, way more than any other presidential candidate. But even though Paul was getting massive online traffic, Teachout says mainstream media was more concerned with fundraising numbers.
When Ron Paul supporters say, well, we have more YouTube views than anybody else, and the New York Times says, well, so-and-so raised more money than anybody else, it's not clear why we should, as Democrats, small d Democrats, value one more than the other.
Teachout says the way campaigns have traditionally worked is that money raised translates into TV ads, which translates into votes. But, she says, in the age of the internet, maybe we need to rethink that equation.
Well, did I ever think I'd be a part of it? No.
Enter Trevor Lyman. He works in the internet business and has just uprooted his entire life from Miami Beach to New Hampshire just to help Ron Paul.
There's a slogan that goes around on signs that says, Dr. Paul cured my apathy.
In fact, in his 37 years, Lyman has never voted once.
It's a big leap from being somebody who never voted to suddenly changing your whole life because of a candidate.
It does go to the war, and the fact that not only are our soldiers dying, but innocent people are dying.
There are other anti-war candidates.
But then there was 2006, and they all switched their story. We gave them the opportunity to end this war.
You feel betrayed by the Democrats?
Absolutely. I feel betrayed by Congress as a whole. Absolutely.
The best commitment we can make to the Iraqi people is to give them their country back. That's the most important thing that we can do.
Ron Paul's fierce and consistent opposition to the war in Iraq has set him far apart from the other Republican candidates. But Lyman didn't find out about Ron Paul from watching the debates. He was on the website MySpace, a social networking site, and he noticed that people were changing their personal profiles into Ron Paul profiles.
And so basically you started seeing Ron Paul's picture everywhere.
Lyman became a fervent supporter and decided to help Ron Paul raise some money. So he put his internet skills to work and set up a website for a one-day fundraiser called thisnovember5th.com. Brian Costin remembers that day.
I was on Ron Paul's website watching this banner go up and up and up. You thought it was going to slow down. You thought it was going to slow down and people were going to stop donating, and it didn't stop through the entire day, and it was just incredible.